Hello and welcome to another Whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me for review number 135. Yes, it is 135. Part two of a series in which I'm looking at some blended malts. And this time it is the turn of Campbeltown Loch. Campbeltown Loch, an older name, an older blend. It was a blended Scotch, I believe, originally, but this then was re-released. Was it late 21, early 22, something like that, by those in Campbeltown. Now it's a bit of a funny one. It's a bit of a strange one. It's it's a Campbeltown Loch blended malt Scotch whisky. It says so on the bottle, but it also says Springbank in the bottle. Just here, it also says that this is actually a blend of all of the Cambeltown whiskies. So that then would include not just the Mitchells and family, but also Glen Scotia. It is my belief that Glen Scotia shows up very, very little here. Very little. By the teaspoonful, I would imagine. This one here in particular is batch 25/7/22, so it's middle 2022, and it's been around then. It's this couple of years, and it's being thought quite highly of. Bottled at 46%, non-chill filtered, no colour added, around the 35 to 45 pounds mark, if you can find it. Let's just get that out of the way. It's going to be mentioned at some point, if you can find it. Now the thing about it is, it's one of those, a bit like the Springbank 10-year-old, where Campbeltown Loch is starting to hang around a little longer on the market. But I would guarantee that there are places in the world, there'll be people comment on this and say, I can't get it. I struggle to get it now as well. So it's sometimes hanging around a bit, sometimes not. Let's just get in, shall we? Butterscotch. Beautifully gentle, balanced nose. It is. It sure is. I've been chatting in the past about the great all-rounder in Scotch whisky. If the great all-rounder exists, it exists for me in this form. This has got enough buttery sweetness, enough floral going on, enough. There's a hint of salinity about it. That just it's got hints of what's good for me in Scotch whisky in general. From Speyside, from the islands, from the Highlands, from the Lowlands, etc. It's here. Stewed pears, some figs, some apricot. That, as I said, that light salinity and floral hint. This, for its price, 35 to 45 pounds, as a blended malt, screams to me good Springbank. Good Springbank. Yes, Glen Scotia may be in there. Yes, it'll be in there in very small portions. But this is all about Springbank, in my opinion. This is one of those reasons that I fell in love with Springbank, is because of whiskies like this. Yeah, it's a blended malt. What difference does that make? It's only a blended malt because of, Kilkerran, Springbank, two different distilleries on paper, Glen Scotia. So you can't call it a single malt. For all intents and purposes, this is pretty much a single malt. Yeah, delicious, light-ish, sweet and sour arrival. I said light, but it's also creamy. It's coating. That butterscotch straight back in on the palate. That apricot, light hints of mandarin orange. All things that I would suggest of Springbank. It's got that creamy, slightly salted caramel, youthful estery thing that reminds me of Kilkerran heavily peated. And even though, yes, it is more heavily peated than this, it's still that youthful esteriness that they seem to be able to get in Springbank. I've had it in other distilleries, but Springbank for me just do it best. They can take a young spirit and still make it eventful. There's something there adding the fruity edge. That apricot, I think I said mandarin orange. There's definitely, it's there and it's lovely. Yeah. Everything I would ask of a Campbeltown whiskey and more. Love it. Love it. Nice, clean finish. Ever so slightly citrusy, ever so slightly peppery, I'm going to say, but it's more like, I suppose, chili lime or something like that. But it's nice and clean and fresh. A little drop of water added there. Don't overdo it. You know, Campbeltown Loch continues to be like this. This will probably be the same as most Springbank releases, in that there'll be slight batch variations. But I think we can live with that, because if it tastes like this, I'm happy with it. I'm fine with it. They never get that far off the mark, in my opinion. Drop of water, slightly sweeter, slightly creamier, slightly more of that orange. Peach and apricot starts to nose slightly more like a Hazelburn 10, shall we say. So once again, Springbank. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, and the palate does the same as the nose. Goes light, goes slightly softer, goes apricot and orange and all those nice sweet fruits. And that hint of smoke is there and no more, but it's there enough to just balance it all out very well. The finish, light, soft, lemon and lime. Yeah, I think this is fantastic stuff. I think it is for £35 to £45 if you can get it. It's just a great blend of malt. Now, okay, £35 to £45. People are going to go, well, you know, there's so much more you can buy with an age statement on it, with a, you know, something that's single malt you'll get for that price. Of course there is. Yes, you will. But it's like this. I'll happily pay it. I would happily, you know, if I'm seeing that, even averaging that out at £40, I'll pay £40 for this to replace it. So yes, I will replace it. There you go. Let's just move on from there and see what I would suggest as an alternative, shall we? That butteriness. I said about butterscotch. Butterscotch is something that hangs about in this in the finish as well. Lovely, 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 lovely. So what I'm going to suggest? Well, first of all, I'm going to suggest what not to buy, which I haven't really done before. Don't buy this, the Gauldrons from Douglas Lang. Now, when I say don't buy this, that's a bold statement. Let me finish that up by saying, don't buy this, the Gauldrons from Douglas Lang, expecting to get Campbeltown Loch. The Gauldrons from Douglas Lang, also Campbeltown blended malt Scotch whisky. This is the small batch number 5 bottling. bottled at 46.2%, non-chill filtered, no colouring. So, you know, on paper, the same sort of idea. I can tell you, personally, from me to you, that the Goldens is a bit of a hot mess. That's the way there. We'll get that off the table. And we'll say, well, what would I suggest to you? Well, I mentioned a couple of other things. If you can get your hands on it, let's just slide that in there. Kilkerran. This is that thing. I'm doing that thing, aren't I? Where I suggest whiskies that are very hard to get. But here, it's just, sometimes you gotta do it. Yeah, Kilkerran heavily peated. If you like this, move on, get Kilkerran heavily peated. If you like this, move on, pick yourself out a bottle of Hazelburn 10-year-old. I mentioned them both in that review. Both I love. I don't know many bottles of Hazelburn 10-year-old. This is the batch number 5 of Kilkerran heavily peated. Every time I dip in Kilkerran heavily peated, as soon as the next bottle comes up, I just buy one. So as I know that I've got a replacement for this when it's gone. Hazelburn 10, this is the second or third bottling, as I said. I think I've had of this. Love the stuff. So from day one, the first time I had Hazelburn 10-year-old, I just fell in love with it. Same for Kilkerran heavily peated. Same can be said for almost everything I've had out of Springbank, Kilkerran, and don't get me wrong, Glen Scotia, who don't really show up here. No, I think through no fault of their own, but I just love this. Love it. It's sweet, it's soft, it's not overly sweet, because there's enough of that salinity playing about in the background to balance the sweet out. That butterscotch, orange, apricot, etc., etc. This takes me back to when I was earlier in my journey and I fell in love with Springbank. Campbeltown Loch brings me back to that moment because it's got enough of all of what I love about Springbank going on there, and Kilkerran and Glen Scotia. There we go. Before I dig myself any more holes, we'll just move on. I'll say thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very, very much to my patrons. Should anybody wish to join that group, the details are in the video description below, and I shall leave just a little link up here about my patronage should you wish to know more. There you go. Thank you very much for joining me. Until the next time, my friends, look after yourselves. Here's to your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.